After you had the overturn of Roe v. Wade, you actually saw more abortions, which is what I was afraid of.
I can't believe we're finally meeting in person for the first time, although we came close.
We came close at the ball.
At the ball, the Liberty
Very
Ball
close.
inauguration, yep.
And
you were
I've
on.
seen you afar on Jesse's show,
Yes.
on Fox. We've been across the screen. But
Yes,
I feel like I
exactly.
know you, though, because I follow obviously your story and everything that you've done. It's inspirational to a lot of us who are very happy that you broke free of the shackles of political correctness and cancel culture.
Thank you. That's what it is.
Yep.
Shackles, right?
Yep.
It's crazy. But when I saw you the other day, I looked up and you're on the perch up there, and I forgot who it was. Clay Travis up there with
Yep.
you at the time on your show, and I just smiled because I'm like, Tomi is one of so many people who, I don't know if vindication is the word. I don't know what it is, and if it even really matters. But what I felt that night looking around at people that I have admired for so long, like you, we're here. How the heck did this happen? How did we get to the point where there is joy? We took the word back from the left, didn't we? And joy and pride and excitement for our future and relief. Like, how do you describe where we are right now?
For me, it's just a joy period, like you said. It's just a vibe, and they wanted vibes. We actually have a vibe now, and it's just America is back, and it feels like that, and it feels like people are actually on board with that now, to where the resistance is only from a select few, and they're loud, but the country is in a much better place now, and a much more hopeful place now, and you can feel it. It's an energy. It's like an awakening has happened, not a woke, but an actual awakening, and woke is dead, which is good for all of us. And now we're actually going to be able to interact with one another, and it's not going to be about race and identity. It's just going to be we're Americans, and we all want the same things.
Yeah.
We all want to be able to afford things and feel safe, and that's the basis of everything. So it's an exciting time for everybody. I'm excited for America to know what it feels like to be put first for the first time in quite a while.
In a very, very long time. I think you're so right, like all of those feelings. And I guess I'm fearful that woke isn't quite dead yet. Like there's people who are gonna be scrapping and hanging on and clawing to make sure it somehow survives. But when you see, Inauguration Day, and when you see Zuckerberg and even Elon Musk, who has come around, a lot sooner than these guys, and Jeff Bezos, and all these people standing there together behind the president. Part of me was like, awesome. The other part's like, screw you. Where have you been?
Yeah.
Like, I got to find a middle ground, right?
We have to be very careful that we understand that there are some people that will be in this orbit that will be purely transactional, that it's about their bottom line and they will go where the wind blows. And right now the wind is mega, so that's where they want to be because that's the better place to be right now because they're business-minded folks. For so long they put woke ideology even ahead of business, but right now it's like, you know what, maybe some of these folks, I love what they're doing, I love what they're saying, but I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. I was personally censored by Facebook at the behest of the Biden White House. So I look at these people like Zuckerberg and it's like, oh, that's so nice that you are now coming around, but your hand wasn't forced to do it when you did it. So I'm going to proceed with caution with a lot of these folks.
Yeah, so that's what I've been talking about a lot lately with people at the airport, wherever. Like, what do you think about this? And same thing. I always try to go glass half full and be an optimist with things. These people are businessmen, and they're brilliant businessmen, even if I don't agree with some of the things that they're doing. Wouldn't you have loved to have been a fly on the wall? Oh, what I would do, have paid to just listen to this. Before Zuckerberg came out a couple of weeks ago and was, sat there in front of the teleprompter, that's for damn sure, and saying how it is time and to stop censoring. My issue is that there's no mea culpa. There's no accountability. Like, I went too far. I'm sorry to people like you and frankly millions of others. Does that matter? Do we need them to fully own it?
They never will, so I don't think we should wait for it. But let's just proceed with caution. It's great, but we're all gonna call you out though, because I well know that I've been censored by Facebook and Instagram for many years. I'm sure you have as well. Sometimes you don't even realize that you are, but if you pay attention to the metrics like I do, and you start seeing that when you post something about the vaccine, that all of a sudden, people aren't seeing your stories anymore, or little little functions would become unavailable to me. I couldn't tag people. Things would go dark. Things wouldn't load. And it was obvious to me what was going on. It's a shadow ban. And when people tell you, hey, I'm not seeing your stuff, or I go to search for you and it says user not found, there's little things that they can do. And we know that they did them. So for me, you don't go from that to Trump becomes the president and all of a sudden now you're into free speech and you're not going to censor and you're not going to let people mess with the algorithm. We're going to hold you accountable though, because if we see it, we're going to say something. So great. We will rent these people. Let's rent them for 4 years. And then let's see where they are. Let's see when the wind starts changing and woke starts making a comeback and the outcry about the deportations and maybe the two genders and all that. When the outcry starts getting louder and the left starts making its resurgence and starts coming for everything again, we'll see what they do.
That is why these first 100 days, which we're at the beginning, to me are so absolutely crucial. And I think the administration knows that. They know that they have to move quickly and do so in clever ways, because the chances are that some of these things are going to come back. And they're going to try, maybe not the transgender stuff, who knows, because we all know, #science, we're going to follow the science. This is the most basic thing scientifically, with men and women being different, period. This should not be in sports, should not be any crossover. But with the hiring practices, with things being race-based all the time instead of how well you do your job, whatever. What do you think needs to be done quickly to make sure that that doesn't start to seep back in? Let's say, God forbid, in 4 years, there's another turn back.
This administration needs to be so successful at making life better on a day-to-day basis for the American people that they don't have time to think about the woke agenda. They don't have time to think about race and identity politics and victimhood. The prices have to go down in the grocery store, at the gas pump. You have to feel safer in your communities. You have to know that your president has your back. And when people start to feel the real tangible effects of that, and it's not just a feeling, it's everyday life, it's kitchen table issues, when you can start to afford things again, then the success will be intoxicating for people, and they will stay on that trajectory as long as things are going well. Inevitably, there's going to be something. Donald Trump is fantastic. He's not a magician. There's going to be things that are going to take a while to fix. People have to understand that and be patient, that he will move as quickly as he can. But I really do believe that the success of the American people will bring everyone together in a way where we don't want to be divided anymore, because it's actually not helpful to be divided. It's not helpful to look at everybody and wonder what their pronouns are, or to look at them based on their race and put them in a category. That's not helpful to anybody. And it's so divisive for people. And I just think people got tired of it too, because we were all struggling together. And people realized that, and that's why they changed their vote, because they had nothing to lose at that point.
Yeah. You know what, one of the big turning points was, in my mind, late in the election, was when Obama went to Pittsburgh and scolded black men. I was so shocked, pleasantly surprised to see the pushback from many prominent black people. And really, dude? Number one, where have you been? And what have you done to make our lives better? Nothing. Tell me what happened, what got better for black people in his 8 years. Nothing. As somebody who has the same skin color, and actually the same makeup as Barack Obama, with a white mother and a black father, but apparently we view those things differently. But people were pissed when he dumbed it down, really. And I think that's something I get so offended by, is that, when people say, well, the black vote. Yeah. What is that? We're all thinking the same? What was a turning point for you? That was a big one for me.
I thought that was a major turning point, but I think as we got closer and closer to the election, people were seeing through what Kamala Harris was offering. And to me, it was offensive how lazy she was. And when I say lazy, I mean she didn't want to put in the work. When you're asked a question and you're running for the highest office in the land, in the world, and you can't come up with a coherent answer that wasn't full of where we exist in the context of who we are and the coconut tree, and everything was just bizarre, she didn't put in the work. She didn't want to take the time to learn anything. I respect people that have a different view than me, so long as they are educated enough in that view to explain it to me. But when you're trying to confuse people with wordplay and some kind of philosophical garbage, that tells me you haven't put in the work. And that offended people, in my opinion, that she wanted to get there without having to do the work. And she's always, at least in her political career, tried to get places without doing the work. Do the work.
It's worked for her, though. That's the part that was so sad for me. Even to be, the person running against Donald Trump. I don't care who you're running against. And we talk about democracy. I think that was the part that was so sad for me. Just because she fit the categories that certain people wanted, then she automatically is qualified. Qualified meaning, did you receive votes?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Did you receive votes? And so to me, isn't it kind of a DEI thing as far as the similarities where are you there because of your skill set, because
Right.
of your qualifications, et cetera? I think quite often, and I guess now I can get past it, my God, what if? I actually feel like America needed to get to the brink
Yeah.
of disaster before, in order to realize, hey, I might not like everything Donald Trump says or how he says it. However, look at what they want to do because they've laid it out there for us. I think we're better because he lost. Do you know what I mean?
No. I think this is a much better opportunity. We had to get there. There are going to be things that are going to be generational that we're going to be cleaning up. Immigration's one of those. We had a mass invasion. That's what it was. It was an invasion. It's going to take a long time to clean that up. They're going to work as hard as they can, but it's going to take a while. But it did have to get so bad in terms of the censorship, in terms of woke, in terms of everything being about skin color and gender and all the demographic things that might define somebody on a piece of paper. It had to get to that point. They had to overplay their hand, and they did. And this election, I have a lot of faith in the American people because the American people said this is a little too far for me. And it had to get that far, though. The left would have been smarter not to overplay their hand, but they got greedy and they thought, well, we can just keep going and going and going, and people are going to go along with us because we'll shame them into it.
Yes.
And people got tired of being shamed into things, and this is what that was.
How far do you think that goes? Because we've seen McDonald's and Walmart and some major companies and even AOC taking the pronouns out of her bio, right?
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of people make the turn, along with the people we mentioned before, the heads of these social media companies, et cetera. What's your gut? Is there a trickle-down effect and then it's almost like peer pressure? Well, they did it, so I'm gonna scale back on DEI as well?
These companies care about money, and they might tell you that they care about social issues. They don't. They care about money. And for so long, their standing and their index was based upon how DEI they were, or how climate change efficient they were, or how equitable they were. And so that was the bottom line. Go in on woke. That's why all these corporations put the rainbow for June, because it was working for them for a time. But as they saw, these DEI initiatives that they had to put in place after the death of George Floyd, after everyone posted their black square and solved racism, they realized it wasn't helping their bottom line. They were investing millions of dollars into these DEI initiatives, and they were not getting a return on their investment. So then when Donald Trump won, it was a great excuse to say, well, Trump won, so we're going to start scaling back DEI. That was part of it, but mostly it was, we're wasting money on this, and this is not performing for us, so we're not going to do it anymore.
Right.
And the only place is the government that was allowed to do it, because the government is not based on performance. So the government could get away with DEI and throw millions into it, and there would be nobody holding them to account until Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So we're done with it now.
No, it really does feel that way. You mentioned the black square. I like that. She cracks up right away. I posted a black square.
Did you do it because you wanted to post a black square? Because you were told that that was the company?
I wasn't told to do it. I felt the pressure.
Yeah.
And because, okay, does racism exist? Of course it does. It always will as long as humans are on this earth. It will in some way, shape, or form, but it isn't just one way. Racism exists throughout, and yes, black people can be racist despite what some people like to say. Absolutely, racism is racism. And so to me at that moment, it was an acknowledgement, yes, we need to be better. We can be better. But it was pressure. I felt peer pressure because I had already, and this is before my last cancellation, I guess. There were a few that led up to the last one at ESPN. And there was a part of me that wanted to prove, no, see, I'm not just one track mind, and I can think outside the box, and I'm not what you claim that I am. I mean, I deleted it, but it took a while.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to the fear that so many had of, I mean, I needed the job.
Yeah.
Again, they didn't tell me to do that. I did that, but I knew that they were watching because they told me they were watching everything. So but I do think it's important to, acknowledge it and talk about it, because how many millions of people felt like they had to do just the black square?
Yeah.
Call someone by their pronouns, whatever it was. Make a certain hire based on those things. So I do think it's going to take some time. That's okay. It is okay. But then again, I'm like, let's go, let's fix it. And don't ever, I don't want, and what if my kids did that out of peer pressure? I would kick their butt,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, for me, if you don't feel like you're doing it because you want to do it, then it feels hollow and it feels disingenuous.
Yeah.
For me, that's where I've always been with a lot of these things. It's like there are areas that I break from the conservative movement
Yeah.
quite publicly.
Yes.
And I lost my job over it. But I will never apologize for that. I could have easily done a reverse on that and said, no, I'm going to be full. This is the conservative playbook. I'm going to follow that playbook because that's the recipe for success in the conservative sphere where I exist, because I really wouldn't be able to do anything else outside of this. I often think about that. Like if I didn't have this job and doing what I'm doing, I started this when I was 21, so I'm not going to go and, find a new career path. Like this is what I do. So I exist in conservative media. So going against the grain of what conservative media tells you need to do was a giant risk for me, but I would never take that back.
Yeah.
Because people follow me because I'm raw and I'm honest. So I'm not going to just go along to get along with my own side. That would be disingenuous and that would be fake to me.
Can you repeat for people who don't know?
Yeah.
About
Sure.
losing your job and...
Yeah, so I was on The View in 2017 after the Trump victory, and I was on with the ladies of The View, and I was defending Donald Trump, and I was, talking about the agenda and where I stood on certain things. And I said, listen, I'm pro-choice. Like I'm very limited government. I don't want people telling me how to live my life, the guns I can own. I mean, I'm very much a limited government type of person. I'm not pro-abortion, but I'm pro-choice.
There's a difference, yes.
There's a big difference. I don't think you should celebrate abortion. I don't think it's something to aspire to. I don't think we could be cavalier about it. It's a life. However, I don't think the government does a good job with it. Now, that doesn't mean I don't think there needs to be any regulation. I do believe there needs to be some regulation, but I don't believe it achieves the desired outcome when you have the government creating a ban. It didn't, because after you had the overturn of Roe v. Wade, you actually saw more abortions, which is what I was afraid of. Yeah. But I said that on The View. At that time, I was working for a different conservative network and did not go over well. And I got fired or suspended for my comments. And I could have just laid down and I could have just continued to get paid and not do my show and just waited out the contract. But I thought, no, I've said it before, first of all, this is not new.
Not the first time.
And no, I'm a conservative political commentator, but I'm not a robot, and this is my belief, and I'm going to express it because that's what I do for a living. So it went into a lawsuit and a settlement and this and that had its time and its place, and I've obviously moved on from it. But even when we were coming up to this election and people were talking about abortion, I was like, listen, if the right goes too right on this, we will lose this election. Yeah. We will lose a very winnable election if we go too far right on this issue, because that's not where the American people are.
Yeah.
But it would be easier for me to say, I have seen the light. I am now pro-choice no matter what, or I'm pro-life no matter what.
Yeah.
But that's not the way I think.
Right.
So why would I say that?
It's so funny because I've always struggled with this topic of all topics, and I think most do. Some don't. Like go for it up until birth. You can have an abortion. When let's back up there. But I really thought to myself, and I remember being at the debate, the first Republican debate in Milwaukee, and watching all 10, 11 people on the stage, and I'm like, this format is nuts. But anyway, like, Tim Scott came out, who I really love, and pro-life. And as much as I agree for myself morally, I'm like, there's no way we win an election with that stance. Such a struggle for so many people, right? Because you don't want to green light taking a life, and at the same time, you got to get in office. You got to get there to make sure that is controlled to an extent, along with so many other issues that are affecting people who can't have abortions because they're men. So what is that balance with this topic?
So I'll tell you where I stand on this, and I always have to be very clear about it, because unfortunately this is such an emotionally charged issue that no matter what side you're on, if you hear somebody is pro-life and you're pro-choice, or you hear somebody is pro-choice and you're pro-life, it's like people just shut down. It's like, I have my stance and we cannot talk about it, there's no gray area. Where in fact there is a lot of gray area where most people sit, but they're afraid to talk about it because it's so hard to break through, because people just shut off as soon as you say where you are on the issue. Here's my thing. I don't believe that the government telling you to do something changes your heart and mind, especially on this issue. I think by and large, people that have abortions is because they don't feel like they have other options. They feel backed into a corner, they're terrified, and I don't feel like the government saying you can't is a way to make those people feel better about choosing life. I feel that churches, community groups, philanthropic organizations, pregnancy centers, I feel like that's where those places can come in, not the government, and they step in and they make people feel more comfortable choosing life. But the government telling you, no, I feel like that unfortunately leads a lot of people who feel already distressed, it leads them to do things that are unsafe and worse. So for me, it's let's have a discussion about it. Let's give women an opportunity to make a pro-life decision because they feel the support.
Yeah.
But the church also has to do a better job in not shaming people that are in that position.
Yeah.
You can't say choose life, but also you're a slut and a whore. That doesn't help. So how can we approach this issue from a perspective of wanting people to make the best choice? And I believe that's a pro-life choice. But how do we support them to get there? I don't think it's a government ban. Some people might think it is, and they'll say, well, murder is illegal. I understand that.
Yeah.
Most people that are in that position do not want to murder a baby.
Right.
They just feel like they're out of options and they're scared and they're terrified and their back is against the wall. How do we help them? That's where I stand on that issue.
Yeah. There's always fringe, right? And there's always people, I mean, you see them marching in Washington, D.C. And remember right after Roe v. Wade got overturned and they were all marching and there was a woman with a pregnant, and this was in the warm weather, right? So summer months, pregnant belly, and then she had blood pouring down because if I want to kill this, it's my right. And it's like, oh my goodness. I mean, there's so much chaos that makes some people, go the exact opposite direction. One of the things I got in trouble for, as you know, is my stance on the COVID vaccine mandate. So if I'm anti-mandate for that, don't I have to be pro-choice? Right? Like there's it's such a tough line. Now, are there differences? Of course. This is just me and my body that I'm dealing with the vaccine that I was forced to take to keep my job at ESPN Disney versus another life. Like, to your point, this will never be an easy discussion, but I'm with you. The government must stay out of that.
Yeah.
Of our bodies. I do think that you got to have, I mean, there are late-term, full-term abortions that are taking place. And worse, there are cases of that in Minnesota where they let a baby die. You know, what happens when an abortion fails? Like, can you resuscitate? In Minnesota, they say no. I believe that's the law. What is the perfect position? Are you happy with where it is now?
There will never be a perfect position on this issue. And there are so many outlier cases that there is not a one-size-fits-all for any of this. But I think in just going with what the majority of Americans feel on this issue, as we know, poll after poll after poll, almost nobody supports late-term abortion or abortion until birth. But almost no one supports no exceptions regardless of rape, incest, life of the mother. Those are very far fringes. Where are people at? Can we come to an agreement on trimester and all that? Perhaps.
Weeks, something.
Perhaps. And then I think you get more people on board. I just still feel like the government isn't the answer, though. And that doesn't mean, okay, just do whatever you want. It's a free-for-all. It's just, can we have better communication on the issue to where people don't feel like they're so fiercely fighting for what they think are their rights? That's why you get the emotional people that say, I can abort this baby now when they're pregnant, because they get so emotionally attached to someone taking something away from them. They feel that's their right. So it's an emotional issue, it's always going to be. Maybe let's try to take a little bit of the emotion out of it, at least in the fight with each other, and just do what's best for individuals and give them an option to where they feel that they can choose life. Because I feel like most people have met with compassion. Inherently in them, they would choose life.
Yeah.
If they're not pushed and they're not shamed and they're not put into this position where they feel like they got to fight.
My body, my choice.
Yeah.
And that's what they forgot when it came to COVID. And that's what I'll never really forgive them for that, because, and who am I? I'm one person, that's it. But so many, I have 3 kids who were greatly affected because we lived in the Northeast, and the shutdowns and the masks and taking away prom and graduation, these are rites of passage for kids, you know, that they don't get back, or for the elderly to literally die alone.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I hope going forward, we can never, ever, ever, ever forget. We now know what they're capable of, and then some. And Donald Trump has mentioned some of those things. He mentioned in his speech at Inauguration Day that how close we are coming to World War III. Like there's so much more out there than I think any of us probably want to acknowledge. But I do think with abortion, it's where it needs to be with the states. It was never in the Constitution.
Yeah.
You know, I think that it's, to your point, it'll never be perfect, but where it is today is where it should stay, in my opinion. What do you think?
I agree. And you know, for people that want to be in California and they have a more extreme position on that side, they're going to be in California because that's what's important to them. People on the other side, they'll probably be in the Bible Belt here in Tennessee where we have very strict abortion restrictions. So, you know, listen, I left California because their philosophy and their policies did not align with mine, so I had to come to Tennessee. You know, sometimes you have to move states.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but guess what? That's reality. And when it comes to COVID, that's why the Fauci pardon was really upsetting for me. As you mentioned, the elderly that had to die alone, people were, you know, watching their loved ones die through a glass door, watching them in assisted living. They couldn't go in, they couldn't experience the birth of, you know, their first child because they couldn't have more than one person in the room. People, generational learning loss, kids learning on Zoom and being conditioned that that was normal, wearing masks. There are still kids that wear masks because they believe that they're doing they believe it's some kind of a virtue signal to wear the mask. Kids that didn't learn to speak properly because of the masks, toddlers and families that were arrested because their 4-year-old wasn't wearing a mask on a United Airlines flight. We let ourselves do this.
You're right.
I remember when they said 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and I was in California and things shut down. We were the first to shut down. It was the end of March. I'll never forget it. I was flying back from Dallas to LA, and LA locked down. As I was flying back, they're like, all right, we're shutting everything down. I remember being in the DFW airport. People were literally taking the toilet paper out of the bathrooms because they were so scared they weren't going to be able to get toilet paper. What a weird time. But I got to LA and they were like 2 weeks. And I'm thinking, there's no way we'll ever let this last beyond 2 weeks. We will reopen. And then 2 weeks was 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, in some places years.
Yep.
And we let it happen.
We did.
And we wore masks on our faces. And I mean, the fact that we let ourselves in the United States of America come to that is so disgusting to me. We must never do it again.
Yeah.
Ever.
I remember sneaking down to Florida every other week. I had just gotten divorced. My kids are with their dad every other weekend in Connecticut where we lived. And I was like, I got to get out of here. And so, I mean, we weren't supposed to fly. ESPN, the manager was like, check in with me before you go anywhere. I'm like, okay. And I would put a hat on. I'd go from air, get off the air at 2 o'clock Eastern, at the airport by 3:15, wheels up by 3:45, toes in the sand by 7:30. And I hat on, and then, okay, fine, you want me to wear 16 masks to get on a plane so I can get out of here and live and breathe in Florida for 48 hours? Absolutely. But even that, I complied. You know, when I got off the plane every time, you have to walk through and get the Q-tips shoved up your nose. It seems like a lifetime ago, and that's the problem.
Yeah, it wasn't.
We need to make sure that it feels like it was yesterday, because it will come back.
They will try to do this again. As soon as the government realizes how much control they have, they will never let that go.
Yeah.
They will do it again. Right now, it's in hiatus, it's hibernating, because we've got Donald Trump as our president. It will come back. They will try this again. It might not be for a virus. It might be for a climate emergency.
Yeah.
You know, who knows what it will be. But once they realize that they could get everyone to comply the way that they did in unison, really nationwide, they realize how much control they had.
Easy. We allowed them to lead us down that path. I think of all the pardons Biden did, it didn't surprise me with his son, even though he said forever that he wouldn't. Yeah. But the other family members, also gross. Fine. What are you hiding? Why? Anthony Fauci? I can't accept it. Like, are we stuck with this? He should be hung by his toenails, like 100%. And he caused such damage and death to millions, maybe more. Like, is it over with him just because he's been pardoned? Is there some other way that we can get around? Even if he can't be then put in prison, I just want to know the truth.
Yeah. We'll probably never know the real truth. It'll be like the JFK assassination. We might learn, how many years down the road. I think the best thing that we can do is just, we will never do this again. And we will never let another Fauci rise through the ranks again. We will never let somebody have unchecked power and wield so much power and the power of fear over us ever again. And he not only destroyed lives, but he destroyed trust in institutions. There are people now that won't get a vaccine of any type because of what they did with that COVID vaccine. And there's vaccines that you need, but they did that. And there will be people on every which way that are going to be forever impacted by this.
You're right. That trust word, it's gone.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe it can be reinstalled, especially if RFK comes in and does what he says he's going to do. I interviewed him on this show in May, and I think it hit air in June or something. And I remember, of course, he hated Donald Trump, or he said he did.
Yeah.
And that's what, campaigns and politicians are all about at certain times. But then all of a sudden the flip, I'm like, okay, now I'm supposed to trust you, right? Yeah. If Donald Trump trusts him, though, then we must. What do you think is the most important thing that he gets done as far as some of the things he's promised? And by the way, it's funny, the red dye stuff, before the inauguration, so the Biden administration could take credit for that, right? And along with a couple of other things. But is there anything that stands out health-wise that you hope RFK and company can achieve?
Well, there's no reason that we should have certain food items that are sold in other countries that are the clean versions, and then we get the crap versions, and they're the same company. There's no reason for that. It's unexplainable. I am also not a big fan of government regulation and control, so don't try to take my Oreos and all my stuff. Like, listen, tell people there's some stuff in it that you probably shouldn't eat, but when you start going and banning things, it gets concerning. Like the red dye, let's ban that. It's been banned in cosmetics for 35 years. That's a pretty easy one.
Yes.
Let's not go too far. I remember when they banned the Big Gulp, and conservatives were pretty pissed about that, as we should be, because listen, if somebody wants to go and drink 5 Mountain Dews a day, that's on you. But let's get rid of some of the stuff that people don't even understand that's in their food. Let's get rid of the dyes. Something that I hope RFK does, and I don't know if this is necessarily under his jurisdiction or control, it might be more agriculture, it'll be a cross-section of departments. It's something that's very important to me because I'm born and raised in South Dakota to a ranching family.
Yes, I love that.
So this is a really big thing for me, and most people are even unaware. And I'm sure RFK Jr. is aware, maybe on some level. I know Nicole Shanahan is, what his once running mate. So people don't understand that we don't know where our beef products come from. We don't. So you go and you buy an apple in the store and you see where it's from. You see what country it's from. It's on the little sticker. Your beef products, you don't know. And people will say, Tommy, wait, no, it says like product of USA, USDA, whatever. No, no, no. We don't have country of origin labeling. We haven't since 2015. So that means that the meat packers, which there are 4 major meat packers, can buy beef from all over the world, from Brazil, from Mexico, from Japan, from Australia. And they can import it over here. And they can simply repackage it and put product of the USA, because that's considered product of the USA, and they can sell it as if it is product of the USA. If it's packaged here. Not born, bred, and slaughtered here, but packaged here. So we don't know. And the reason that that's important is not only because you should know where your food's coming from, it's because our American ranchers are being undercut on a daily basis because of this, because they can't differentiate their product. So you might have a cow that's from Brazil, that's getting thrown in the same as an American born and raised cattle rancher beef. And we don't know. And our American ranchers are being run out of business because of this, because they cannot differentiate their product. And that means that the meat packers don't have to pay them anymore. It might cost them more to raise beef in the US and be a small cattle rancher that's doing things ethically and raising their animals on the land. It's going to cost them more, but they're still getting paid the same amount. Yeah. Because they're being undercut, because the American consumer cannot differentiate. We've got to know where our food is coming from. And it will help your American farmers and ranchers. And we need them. We need America's heartland to be.
Have there been a lot of discussions about that in particular?
Unfortunately, a lot of people don't know, and it's unfortunate.
I didn't know.
Most people don't. The meatpacking industry has a huge hold on our food, and they are a very powerful lobby.
Where do you get your meat from?
Well, for me, my family's a ranching family, so
they're still ranching.
Yes.
Oh.
So we get our rancher meat from the ranch.
Do you sell it?
Well, see, if more ranchers had the ability to sell, and there are ranchers that can do it, they can process their own. But by and large, you can't make a living that way, at least now. because they have to sell to the packers. That's how they make their money. When you're running thousands of head of cattle, and you have to be able to sell to a meat packer. And it used to be that they could differentiate their product, they'd get more for it, and they were paid a fair price for everything that they had to put into it. But that's not the case anymore, and it hasn't been. So we need to reinstate country of origin labeling for our American ranchers and farmers.
Thank you for this. No, I had no idea.
Most people don't.
Oh my gosh. I wish I had asked you to bring a picture of little Tommy growing up on the ranch in South Dakota.
So both of my parents come from ranching families. I didn't grow up on a ranch, but both of my parents did. And
so
my
you
uncle
said grew up in a
my
ranching
uncle still
family, yeah.
has the ranch in South Dakota. So that's where we get our meat from in my family.
Did you spend time there?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
What was that like? I've never been to South Dakota.
You've got to go to South Dakota. I would suggest the summertime. But
Yes,
it's
I
not
can't do
Rushmore,
winter.
it's the heartland, it's America.
Yeah.
To me, that's why I've always been conservative, because I grew up with just hardworking, very simple folks in South Dakota, which are predominantly your Midwest folks, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, other than the areas that have been, hijacked by the Californians.
Yes.
That's America to me.
Yes, absolutely.
And here in Tennessee as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a couple of states now that are like safe spaces, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like, for the most part, although all these Californians coming here in Nashville, in this area, certainly Austin, Texas. I live in Florida. There's an influx there. The prices have gone up because people get it and want to live there. So I worry a little bit. But has there been an influx there much? Or people are, I know
Oh, in South Dakota?
Montana,
Yeah, Colorado is infiltrating South Dakota.
Oh, goodness.
But you know what? Trump's going to fix that too, because he's going to get rid of the gangs. Well, you know why they're coming?
Oh.
They're coming because of the
Sanctuary cities.
Because it's a sanctuary city, and how much money are they spending on illegal immigrants?
Oh, it's disgusting.
Or newcomers, as they call them.
Yeah, newcomers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's call them what they are. We mentioned the city of Chicago a
Mm-hmm.
lot recently too, because those Venezuelan gangs have gone there. Sanctuary city, completely overrun the city. At the inauguration, was at the Black Conservative Federation Ball. So interesting to speak to so many people, Black, white people, everybody was there to celebrate a few of these people in the Black conservative movement. And I talked to a pastor and another person who's from Chicago. And he's like, girlfriend, there are so many conservatives in Chicago, especially over the last couple of years, because they've been educated to look at the policies. And you just look right here, like they're not helping them, but in the meantime, here you go, New York City. Here you go, free this, free that. And I think it's, again, maybe this just goes back to the beginning, being on the brink of disaster for people to start to pay attention and say no more. Okay, got off track there. South Dakota. So on the ranch, what was that like? Were you hands-on? Did you help? Was
See, I didn't grow up on the ranch.
I know, but
I
you
grew
said
up
you
in,
visited.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, my uncle still runs the ranch. So this is why these issues are so important to me, because, South Dakota, it's important. We also have the Keystone Pipeline that Biden shut down and devastated our state. There was thousands of jobs in a relatively small state that were reliant on that pipeline that he came in and shut down. So these are issues. For me, why I got into doing what I did is because I felt like nobody cared about the people that I, grew up with.
Yeah.
People didn't care about South Dakotans, North Dakotans, you just don't care about the flyover states as much. Like, we're not in the news unless there's a massive snowstorm, or, maybe they'll show Mount Rushmore fireworks once a year.
Yeah.
But people they gloss over, like, middle America and the forgotten Americans. And Trump was the first person in my lifetime to see the forgotten American. But that's why I got into doing what I did, because I wanted people to understand that people from the middle America, we are the backbone of this country. You just might not notice us, but that's why I wanted to be a voice for those kind of people that honestly have just worked too hard to be active in politics or in media. They just work too hard.
They're busy.
Yeah,
but you witnessed it.
Yeah.
What was that moment? Because I know people always ask me, when did you know you wanted to be a sportscaster? I was 11 years old. I knew the moment, and I announced it to my parents. They're like, really? Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Supportive, but this is going to be a tough road for you. What was your moment? Do you have one?
Yeah, for me, it's honestly just growing up watching the news, and I wanted to do that. I've always had an opinion, and I've always been very proud of my opinion and able to articulate it. So that's just what I've always done, and I've never cared what people think. I've never cared about offending people with my opinions. And when I say that, it's like, oh, does it mean that you're just an asshole? No, I don't go out of my way to be an asshole to people. But for me, I've always asked people, especially conservatives that don't want to be outspoken conservatives, there's a time and a place for your politics, first of all, by the way. I don't shove it in people's faces unless I'm doing my job or unless I'm asked. I don't just walk around and just impose my opinion on people. But to conservatives who are afraid to be conservative, or Trump supporters, whatever, I often ask them, like, why are you so afraid of offending people who have absolutely no problem offending you? I have never seen a liberal who is afraid of offending me.
Never.
I've never seen a liberal that's like afraid to tell you their opinion. And I've often envied that about liberals because they are very proud of their beliefs. But conservatives have been taught that we can only be proud of our beliefs if we're around other conservatives.
Correct.
Like-minded folks. Why? Like, they're very proud of the way they believe.
But I also think that they were encouraged to do that and supported by these social media companies, the colleges and universities, et cetera. That's where, I mean, it's been easy for them to be outspoken and supportive of each other because they were never at risk of getting canceled.
But how did we get here?
I don't know.
Conservatives got ourselves here. We cannot pass the blame exclusively to the left for silencing and censoring us.
Oh no, just like COVID, we allowed it. I have had to be very accountable for that, like deleting the black square, for instance. Absolutely. Like, why? I get why there's fear. It is legit. Do I think it's changing? Absolutely. But you and I are great examples for people who wonder, oh, is that really that bad? Well, yeah, it is, and it has been quite costly. You have rebounded beautifully, but still, I have empathy. But I had to say to people, and I said it 2 days after I left ESPN, August of 23, I went on Megyn Kelly's show, and she said, well, what was that line? And I said to her, like, I was choked up. I said, Megyn, I did not know what my line was until it was crossed. And then it was like, oh, hell no, not anymore. And it took getting hurt, devastated, broken, embarrassed before I said, no more. And then, like, found a spine and began to no longer be afraid of being disliked because I knew I was being wronged. And if they would wrong me, who, I did quite well at ESPN, I'm so grateful for all of those opportunities, then why wouldn't they crush somebody else who didn't have the resume, et cetera, who was younger, Did you not ever have that fear?
No, because I've always done this, right? So
I don't understand, Tomi. I'm sorry. I don't understand how you, from day one, from being this young girl, like, you've never had a fear of speaking up and giving your opinions.
I have a lot of fears, but not of my opinion. No.
Like, how did your parents handle that? Were you mouthy, like, as a teenager?
I mean, I've always been mouthy. Ask my husband. I'm mouthy.
Did you get grounded for mouthing off to mom and dad? Like, was it?
I mean, I've always had a certain amount of respect, but for me, it's like, if you have an opinion and you have a belief and you have an ideal, but you're afraid to express it, or you feel ashamed of it, do you really have that opinion or that ideal? I mean, it's the same thing with our faith. If you're a Christian and, like, you're not proud to tell people you're a Christian, are you really a Christian?
Right.
Because, God says to spread the word, to spread the gospel. Now, it doesn't mean imposing it on people, but for me, I really do not care. I really do not care if I am not liked for my opinions and that goes on the left and the right. I do not care if those on the right do not like every opinion that I have and they tell me I'm not a real conservative or this. I do not care. I will not toe a line to appease other people. And that's just always been my stance on it. And I've never gone back on it, because the second that you do, I believe my success has been built on me being authentic.
Yes.
Authentic.
Yeah.
And I don't care who doesn't like it. If the left doesn't like it, the right doesn't like it, the middle doesn't like it, I don't care. Like, authenticity is why I'm on my 8th year at Fox News. It is. And I was one of the first people on Fox News to say we shouldn't be shutting down. I'm not going to wear a mask. Like hell am I going to get a vaccine. Not that other people didn't express that, but I was like very forthright about that, like right at the beginning when people are still very nervous to say anything about it.
Didn't they require it?
No.
At Fox News?
No. Not for me.
They did. Maybe that's the difference.
Because I was in Nashville. So New York had its own, so New York made stipulations upon businesses in New York. And that was often out of the control of a lot of these companies.
Yes.
Because New York mandated it to get your license and have your, your building and all that. Like, that's how how tyrannical this was. But I was in Nashville, Tennessee.
That was it. Yeah.
That made a big difference for me. But it would not have mattered to me. I would have been like you. Like that, there was just no way. There was no way I was getting that vaccine.
Yeah.
I would wear a mask on an airplane because I needed to travel.
Got to travel? And they had us there.
But outside of that, if a restaurant required it, I'm not going there. Like, I'm
Yeah,
not doing that.
exactly.
And I'm not doing that in Tennessee, of all places.
Hell no, no.
No.
I have to say, I wonder if you've ever experienced this because, you know, again, I have 3 kids, and so I quite often had to pick my battles more than I ever would have wanted to, because they weren't little, they're teenagers and in high school and now college, but, you know, they weren't allowed to go hang out at certain kids' friends' homes because they weren't vaccinated. Or to go, my son qualified for this incredible running camp, and they weren't going to let him go without it. School, anything. Coaches and parents would say things to my kids about me. And so when it does directly affect others around you, that's when I had to step back and bite my tongue a lot, because I knew that it would hurt them too.
Yeah.
My parents sometimes were like, please, Sage, stop. You know what I mean? Because as a parent, it hurts them to see us get crushed at times, even though they know that we're right and they're proud of us. It's still hard to read the comments. Some of them I can't even repeat, right? And
Yeah.
I know you have it tenfold.
Yeah.
Have there been moments like that for you with family or close friends where they just love you, right? They mean well, but they're trying to get you to lighten up because of what comes with it?
So for me, I have an incredible amount of freedom in that I started doing this when I was 21.
Yeah.
So for me, and it's so liberating, and like in terms of things, like I'm 32 now, so I'm not that old, but I've been doing this since I was 21. So that's my professional life started at 21 doing conservative television.
Yeah.
So this is me. And so for me, whether it's my personal life, whether it's, you know, dating or friendships or professional relationships or whatever it may be, I come out the gate at 21, this is me. Nobody has to wonder where I am. They know where I am.
So true.
And people say, like, do you ever like get nervous that people aren't gonna like you, or that, you know, they're gonna know that your opinions and they're, you know, you're controversial, and so what, you know, is that hard to walk into a room, you know, and people have a preconceived notion about you? Like, no, that's very liberating, because I don't have to tell people, like, yeah, I'm a conservative. If you are choosing to be around me, you already know that, and you're already cool with it.
Yes.
If you want to date me and marry me, you already know where I stand, and guess what? You know I'm controversial. So if you're going to sign up for that, like, I don't have to have the conversation with you about it. You wouldn't be here if you didn't already understand that.
Yes.
That's so liberating to me. I don't have to
can't
pretend to be
imagine.
anything.
I can't imagine. Like,
I can't imagine pretending to be something that I'm not.
I know.
That's got to be a rough way to live.
It was. It's not now, but it was exhausting. And the only reason was, I mean, there was some legitimate fear at first, because I was never that person. I was a pleaser, Tomi. We were the opposite. I was a pleaser. I wanted to make everybody happy, make sure I was liked by everybody. And oh my gosh, you know, you're going to the beach today. I'm so sorry, it's a cloudy day. Maybe I can fix that. Like stupid stuff, you know, where I was such that person. That has obviously changed a lot. But I'd like to think that if it weren't for my kiddos, you know, who at times begged, even now, they're like, Mom, really, do you have to say that, Dad? And I'm like, I do. And you don't ever have to defend me, but please, you could, if someone asks you, which people do in college, et cetera, my mom has a right to her opinion, and so do you. That's all I ask them to say.
But what an example are you setting for them, honestly? Like, for me, I don't have kids yet, but when I do, obviously I'm gonna come with that and more that you have. But for me, it's like, I will always set an example for my kids that you stand up for what you believe in.
Yeah.
Like,
You're living it.
even if it's not popular,
Right.
you stand up for what you believe in. And you know what? You might evolve how you feel on things, and that's fine, and be honest about that. But don't ever apologize for what you believe in. Don't ever apologize for who you are and what you believe. And your kids know that about you now. Like, she's not going to apologize, and they shouldn't either. It's kind of like being in a relationship when you first start dating someone, and like for me, I would never make believe that I was like this sporty person that's like, my idea of a great first date is playing pickleball. Like, I would never create that illusion, because that's not me. But when you lie about your political beliefs, that's kind of what you're doing, or you're not forthright about what you believe. It's like you're having to put up this persona, and it's exhausting to keep up that persona. It's so much easier to just be yourself and just to lay it out at the beginning.
Gosh, I'm so envious, and I'm so happy that you've chosen this from day one, because as you know, it takes a lot. And I look around at so many talented young women and men, and now I'm like, go, go, go. I think maybe it's a benefit in those conversations with them because I was on that side too, of legitimate fear because I needed that paycheck. And it was a job that I happened to love, right?
Yeah.
Like both can exist.
But you never wanted to have to be political in your job. You were thrust into it. You were forced into it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I always viewed ESPN as a safe haven, as an escape for people to get away from politics and death stories on the NBC Nightly News or whatever that is. I thought this is the one place where people can come together. And on a football Sunday for 3 hours, if you're at Giant Stadium or down here at Nissan Stadium in Nashville, like you're all on the same team in your race and your sex and your socioeconomic status. Nothing matters. Sports is the bringer together, which is not a word, right? Like
Yeah, it's
that's
a
the
unifier.
glue, and absolutely,
It's an equalizer too.
and that's what was so devastating. It's like, wait, we're choosing to divide when we're supposed to be the glue. So I do try to share that with people. Like, don't wait as long as I did, please, and my kids. Don't wait, because not only is it a detriment to yourself, it is to those around you, because people are watching. Even those that you don't think are or even would care. I'm blown away at how many people, watched my little, and on the scale, very small drama, only because it involved big name companies, right? But sometimes I'm still like, wait, really? You know about my lawsuit? Like, who cares?
People care though, because that's the girl. You could have been that girl at ESPN for here to here, but now your legacy will be that girl that stood up for herself. Remember that girl that changed everything and stood up for herself?
Yeah.
That's how you be remembered. It won't just be, there's going to be how many thousands of broadcasters that are going to go through ESPN and every other entity and Fox News and whatever, the media is going to keep going and going and going.
Yeah.
But your legacy will now not just be that girl that was a sports broadcaster. It'll be the girl that stood up for herself and pioneered what that meant in that space.
Yeah.
To me, that's a better legacy.
It is for sure, and I haven't even thought of legacy, and I super appreciate that opinion coming from you because you get it. My prayer is that, again, no one takes as long as I did to find the courage, and I will always be honest, the fear is real. I've lost so much money. I've lost so many friends. It's been people. I guess people I thought were friends, and that's the thing is you do realize that they never were. And those women at ESPN or other people wherever that I thought were, and head over to my home for special moments with my family. And I guess that was because I was liked at that point. I was cool. Cool
yeah,
enough.
well, those people that don't want to be your friend because you have an opinion that's different from theirs, that's deep insecurity.
It is, and I know that now. At the time, you go, what did I say wrong? What did I do wrong? Let me apologize. My boss said you better apologize. Okay. If you don't apologize publicly, you won't have a job. Okay. You do it all because of that fear. And I just want people to know, it's going to be hard. You're going to have to make decisions that are going to suck. And you're going to be hurt by people. And people that you love, you're going to find out don't love you back. So are you willing to basically take those chances, but then have clarity? It was a blessing and still is I cannot imagine still being there. Not because of it being ESPN, but just in general, to be living in fear. And that's what I hope people take from you. Sure, it's hard, it's not easy. You haven't been given anything. You have earned every bit of this, every bit of it. Okay, you know me now, all over the place. How hard was it to date? Because you mentioned dating and people knowing what they're getting. Was it hard?
Yeah, no, it was because, and you, I'm sure, know this as well. It doesn't matter if you're controversial or not. It doesn't matter. When you are a public figure in general, but especially a controversial public figure, the dating pool for a long time for me was two different. It was either people who were fans, and that's icky. Yes. Not that no, there's a difference between being a fan and somebody who supports you and somebody who appreciates what you do.
Yes.
A fan is somebody, though, that wants to be with you because of who they think you are or the persona of who you are.
Stand next to you.
Yes. And it's they are starstruck. And not I'm a star, but they might agree with what you say, but they want to be with that person because you are a name. So I would get that, or I would get people who did not want to be publicly associated with me because I was controversial. So that was the two options that I really had. And neither one of those is fulfilling. Because I'm not going to be with anybody who's not proud to say that they're with me. That's why, that's not sustainable for me. This is what I do. I'm always going to do this. So, that might be fun for a while, for a fling, but long term. And there are people that I would with that, were pretty high profile people that you would probably never have any idea that I was ever associated with, because that was never going to be public for that reason.
Gosh.
But then I met my husband, who checked the boxes of former professional athlete, has his own accolades, worked in media. When I met him, worked in media, is now a baseball coach, but had his own things and accolades and was very successful in his own lane, but also very proud of me, and very proud of me to where he will never apologize for being my husband. So that's a hard thing to find.
Yeah.
But you don't need to find a bunch of them, because hopefully you only marry one person.
That's the goal.
At a time.
At a time, especially.
So for me, that's what I found. And it took a while for me to get there. I got married at 30, which, in today's standards is not old, but for a lot of people in the South is old. But for me, that's what it took, is somebody who's proud of me, who appreciates what I do, is not threatened by what I do, is not emasculated by what I do, but can stand next to me and walk forward with me, not in front of or behind me, and not afraid of backlash or controversy or whatever. That's JP, yeah.
Aaron Sibia.
Yep.
I said it right.
Yep.
Sportscaster. Former.
That's a whole nother story that is not my story to tell. But now he's a coach, and that's great for him, and he loves baseball, and he's the best baseball mind that I know, and he'll do very well in that career path.
But I love that. I love, when you said that about not his resume, all that, but how he looks at you, how he looks at his wife. Was that from day one? Date number one? Obviously, he asked you out, he knew what you were about, and again, coworkers, kind of, sort of, at the same network at least, not working together, doing two very different things. But what did that feel like right away when you thought to yourself, wait, he legit is not afraid of me, is not intimidated?
Yeah, that's, to me, I learned very early on in dating that I'd have to be with somebody that was in some sort of public figure or had attained some level of success.
Yeah. Explain that.
I mean, it's not like, oh, I need to be with somebody who's a name or has money or has fame or any of that. That's not important. It's just somebody has to understand what you do. If they don't understand what you do and the demands of what you do and the public life that you have to lead doing what you do, it's never going to work. They have to get it at some level. And they can learn it, but it's much easier if someone already gets it. So he already got it. He already knows what it's like to be in the public eye. He already knows what it's like to attain a certain level of success and not be intimidated by mine, and not want to hold me down to a level because it emasculates him. I had dated people before who would come to events with me and be very proud of me, but would hold my purse in the corner. And that's not, for somebody who's an alpha female, being with a man that's holding your purse in the corner is not attractive.
No betas allowed.
No.
No.
So, and that's not him. If I take him to a room of people, I will leave and he'll be talking to the Fox executives. That's my husband. He can be in a room and he can go with me to things and exist without me. I don't need to babysit him. I don't need to be like, this is so-and-so. He's gonna walk into a room and be him.
Yes.
And he's got a big personality. So I have a big personality. Yeah, I needed that for me. Somebody who wouldn't let me walk all over them and wouldn't be intimidated, and somebody that had their own thing.
Yes. We talked about this a little bit before, but it is a fine line. And I do now know for a fact how difficult it is to find. And part of me was like, oh no, I don't want anyone in the public eye, anyone. And, I won't even talk about my situation right now, although I'm really happy. But in general, it's they have to get it, and you can't really teach them. And so there are benefits. I mean, you look at Hollywood, and it's always a disaster, and these marriages never work, and they all, okay, it's Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, or whoever it might be. You get why they do it, but why is yours going to be different? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Where you are going to last, despite being two high-profile people.
For me, it's because that stuff doesn't matter at home. That stuff matters when you find you got to find something that matches with you, matches your energy, and you have to have not the same energy, but it has to be able to coexist. But at home, when we've got our two dogs and we're, watching The Traitors on Peacock, It doesn't matter that, he's a baseball coach and that I do this and I'm on Fox News, and it doesn't matter that none of that matters at home. But we have a mutual respect for what each other does. And for me, that was a big thing for me is
Yeah.
I have to respect you as a man. And so that doesn't mean that you have to be a celebrity or rich or whatever, but I just have to respect your hustle. Like, you've got to hustle. I have to be with somebody that hustles. And that's very important to me. Ambition is important to me.
You've talked too about like what has happened to our men, and
Yeah.
in general, and how they aren't celebrated the way that they deserve to be. Me Too movement, a lot of things have changed that. Again, I think it helps Donald Trump is back in, and he is an alpha male if there ever were one, right? I mean, how do we get back to making sure that we allow men to do what I believe they were put on this earth to do, which is to provide and to protect and uplift us, of course. I mean, I know that to be true, that it is possible.
I think it's parenting. I think we need more fathers in the home, parenting, showing what it means to be a man, being strong in their faith, whatever that faith may be, it doesn't matter. Be strong in your faith, be a provider, be a protector, be a partner. And I think that once that's instilled in young men, they grow up that way, and they have those fundamentals and that foundation. That's not always everybody's situation. You can't control who your parents are, and you can't control that. But I think for men, just to, don't let society emasculate you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you need to be, jacked and athletic and go to the gym and all that stuff. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean you have to be emotionless and a hunter. It doesn't mean that. It just means that you have to be strong and secure and confident in yourself. And that, to me, confidence is everything. Not cocky, because to me, cocky is actually insecure. Confident.
Totally, yeah.
Confident. And then you can be with a very strong woman and be confident. Mm-hmm. Not all men can be with strong women. They always say that they want a strong woman until they get one, and then they would rather not have a strong woman. Or they like a woman so strong that she takes care of them. And that can't be that either.
Where's my wine?
Yes.
Exactly. When did you know he was the one?
I knew probably very shortly after we met.
Did you really? Why?
It just, the things aligned.
Yeah.
It made sense. And I waited until I was a little bit older. And that, to me, I was 28, which isn't that old. But had I gotten married when I was 25 or 26 or 27, that wouldn't have worked out, regardless. Waiting until you're older and you know who you are, and waiting until, my husband's 7 years older than me, that was helpful for me. My husband's been married before.
Really?
That was helpful for me. Also to somebody that was in the public eye, so he knows what that's like. And
aside from that part, how was it helpful that he had been married
it's helpful because you know what doesn't work, and you know what does work, and like the kind of person that you need.
So for him,
and for me too. For me too. Like, what kind of person that you need. Like, I know what I can tolerate.
No, for sure. That's kind of the silver lining to being divorced, on the woman side of it. And believe it or not, I was like, I'm looking for someone who is divorced. Mm-hmm. I mean, at my age, I'm a lot older than you. The likelihood is that yes, they will have been through either divorce or the loss of a spouse. Hopefully not that, and someone with kids. But the divorce part, because you realize that they've been through some crap, some pain, and some hurt. And you hit the nail on the head, though. Once you go through something that devastating to decide to leave a marriage, I said it. I know what I like, I know what I don't like. Mm-hmm. Finally. I never did. Actually never did. So that's awesome that he as well can find a silver lining, and I'm guessing it's never a positive to get divorced. Yeah,
I just think that there's a lot of, I don't think you should get married to get divorced, but I don't think there's any shame in getting divorced.
Yeah, I put shame on it, I know. I think
you shouldn't, because if something's not working for you, you got to pivot. And you got to do everything that you can, but we know what's not right for us, and we know when we're in a situation. And that doesn't mean getting mad one day and getting angry. I think we all wake up, like if you're married, you wake up and it's like, I could do this on my own. I don't need you. But I mean, truly, if something's not for you. If you really know something's not for you, and then you've got to pivot and you've got to do something else, because life is way too short to be unhappy.
Short. One of the things that I've learned through all of it is, like, especially when you're, 30, getting married. I was 26, almost 27. Met him when I was 20, so like that's all
Yep.
I mean, that's all I knew. But through those years, like 30 to 40 is going to be so different. 40 to 50, we do change so much. I like to say evolve, which means growth to me. But the question is, do you do it together? Not in the same way, but together, and encourage each other to grow. And I think that is something that, you don't go into it saying, I'm going to change him or I'm going to change her. Okay, fine. Can I be more tidy in my closet? Absolutely. Get your head.
So mine's the opposite. So my husband would refer to me as the enforcer.
The enforcer?
Also Inspector Gadget.
Shut up. What does
Because
that
I'm
mean?
very tidy and I'm very OCD to the point where I'm very much, things need to be in their place, and things go back in a certain way and things need to be straight and things, I'm very by the book.
Why does this not surprise me at this point?
I'm very much like that. And he is very much like, if he leaves his toothbrush in the shower, he wouldn't notice. Like he leaves towels on the floor or whatever, and I'm not like that. So that is our biggest struggle, is that I am very tidy and he is, if left to his own devices, is like a bobcat or a raccoon.
Oh my gosh. What do you mean a bobcat?
Just like a bobcat, raccoon, wild animal. And I am not. I am this. So it takes me just letting certain things go, and then him also being tidier. That was our biggest thing, is like, because I lived alone, since I never lived with anyone since I moved out of my house at 17. So I never lived with anybody. So that's over 10 years of living by yourself and doing things your own way.
Your way, exactly.
And then trying to bring someone into that. And I'm an only child too.
You are?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So let's just add all those things up. I'm very used to just living in Tommy's world. So incorporating JP and then realizing that everything isn't going to be the way that I want it to be. But we can get close, as he knows. This is his biggest frustration with me.
Well, so it goes both ways.
Yeah.
And so he's frustrated because you are the enforcer.
Yes.
So what are you trying to do to soften? How do you soften?
I don't say everything that I think about the tidiness. And he would beg to differ. If he was here, he would say, cut the cameras. Yes, she does. I will just say, I'll have to do self-speak, like, Tommy, it's okay. He left this like this, but he was trying. He was trying, and I know that he wanted to do this the right way, but he did his best.
Self-speak. Stop
it. Yes,
it.
Like, Tommy, just take a breath.
He did his best.
Yes, he did, and he tries so hard now. Like at first, he would just fight me, and it would be like, I'm not doing it this way, and I'm not whatever, and then now he's realized that I have to have a certain way. But also, in my defense, he's gone for 8 months a year. He's a baseball coach. So not only when you live alone for 10 plus years, when you're an only child, and your husband's gone for 8 months, and you have things a certain way, and then he comes home from the baseball season, and then it's like, when you have your routine and then someone comes and just throws wrenches into your routine, it takes a while for us to get back into coexisting. Because he's used to being like a raccoon, living the baseball life, and I'm used to being at home strict, and then we have to bring those two together, and we have to end up somewhere that's like a
And especially
balance.
as an athlete, that's a whole other level, because pretty much it's been all about them their whole lives. And it's like they can do what they want. I mean, okay, you got to be at the ballpark at this time, but whatever. So what happens when you have kids?
Well, I do a great job with the dogs, and they are structured. The dogs are structured.
Stop it. What do you mean they're structured? They don't pee in the house? Great.
And they know when they go on their walks, and I'm very routine oriented. So that's how I can function.
How are your dogs structured?
Well, they're structured in that they have their routine, and JP knows, because when I'm not home, they can take their walk at this time. They have to go. They're used to going to the bathroom at this time. They get used to that, and they need that. And I think kids need that too. They need a certain amount of structure. They need to know what to expect. Like for me, growing up, we had dinner at a certain time, and we had dinner together every night. Those kind of things.
Sure.
Now for the dogs eat when I eat, right? So they've acclimated to my schedule. So
what does your closet look like?
I turned a room into a closet.
Oh,
because we don't have kids, and so there was a room, so that was necessary. But as you know, when you do TV, you need a lot of clothes.
You do. Yeah. Yes, that's always my excuse. And shoes, because it's top to bottom half the time. They see all of it. It's not just behind the desk wearing boxer shorts. This is a whole different generation of TV. So it's color coordinated?
Yeah. color coordinated by type of dress and formality level. Everything is very much in its
Shoes?
place. Yeah, everything. I have a shoe area. Yeah, everything is very much in its
Can you
place.
send me a picture when you get home?
Sure.
Video?
Yeah.
Like #goals?
Yeah. The organization for me is a big thing because I can't think without it. I can't be creative if my space isn't a certain way. And JP knows that now. I work a lot from home. I have a home studio. So in order for me to, and I write from home. Everything I do is primarily from home except for when I'm in the Outkick studio. I do everything at home and I have to have my writing space. The things around me have to be clean and organized. Otherwise I can't be creative. Because if something's out of place, my mind can't go to its creative spot because I'm worried about things being out of their place because I'm OCD. I know I am.
Do you have separate bathrooms?
Yeah. No. No. We have separate sides of the bathroom.
Like miles
There's
apart?
one side and the other side.
So you just kind of do this?
Yeah. My husband also snores, so sometimes he sleeps in the downstairs basement.
Stop it.
Well, I can't sleep. He snores. So sometimes he must go to his man cave bedroom.
He is like...
No, he prefers
Told
that
to go,
because he
okay.
can't sleep when I'm smacking him every 10 seconds.
So you're never going to have kids?
No, we've been married 2 years, so
No, I'm saying if you're sending him to the basement, to the man
he's
cave.
happy to go to the basement because listen, we both need our sleep. Like at some level,
True.
people need their sleep.
Oh God, tell me about your sleep schedule. Is that structured too?
Oh yeah. The sleep schedule, the workout schedule, the daily
Go ahead.
routine is
Give me a
very...
little more because you're inspiring me because I'm the opposite, like disaster.
So you're like
right
my
now.
husband.
I'm a raccoon.
Yeah.
I'm not proud.
Which is okay.
But I'm a recovering raccoon / bobcat.
Yeah.
I mean, like I have hope. I think. Like I'm 52. I think I can still change.
But if you don't want to, you don't have
No,
to.
I want to.
You want to, okay, yeah.
I
To me,
do.
routine is everything. Routine and structure is everything
so-
for me, but that's how I operate. Some people don't.
No, but I think it's. I actually know that I need it.
Yeah.
It's kind of chaotic couple years. I'm trying to find
Yeah,
my way back.
well, I mean, we've all got our own thing.
For sure. But
Yeah.
okay, workout schedule is.
Yeah,
mornings?
I get up at 7 pretty much every morning. Sometimes I have to do weird times because of work schedule. Get up at 7, I work out until 9, I walk the dogs until 9:30. I get ready for work from about 9:30 until 10:45. I do my hair and makeup. 10:45, I eat breakfast. I'm out the door by 11:15. I go to my Outkick set. My show starts live at noon Central. Then I get done with that, go home, write my radio, write my show for the next day, do my nightly hits on the channel from the home studio, eat dinner somewhere in there, and then do it all again. Yeah.
That's amazing. Can I hire you?
My husband would say I run a pretty good boot camp.
No, I would hire you to put me on a schedule, like a strict schedule, like with punishments. I don't know what the punishments would be. What could they be? No chocolate? Like I need chocolate every
Yeah.
day.
There
Do you
you
eat
go.
chocolate?
Yeah, of
Do you eat
course.
sweets? Thank
Oh
you,
yeah, I'm a big
Jesus.
sweet person.
I was gonna be like,
Yeah.
okay, I
I'm a
can't.
big sweets person.
Tell me how you work out for 2 straight hours, 7 to 9.
Yeah, roughly 7 to 9. Yeah.
What do you do?
So I have a basement or a garage gym. So I have
Awesome.
a treadmill and weights, and I have a TV, and I watch my Bravo and do my workout and my running and my incline walking and some free weights and
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have like for years I did, especially during pandemic, Peloton strength workouts.
Yeah.
On the floor, that saved me.
Yep.
Because the gyms were all, in Connecticut,
yeah.
were all completely shut down. Is there one thing in particular that you do workout wise?
I have like a circuit that I do with
Yeah.
the incline walking and then different like YouTube videos that I'll watch for
Yeah.
the lifting, like the free weight stuff. And then I love to watch my Bravo. That's when I watch my Housewives and all my
Get away from the
reality
other
TV. That's what I love to
Yeah.
watch is reality TV.
My oldest told me about the TikTok thing, which, this is probably a year ago. I think it's 12:3:30.
Okay, yeah. I do that. Yeah.
That's legit, don't you think?
Yeah.
I'll try to, so for those wondering, 12 is the incline. You're at 12%, which is like, that's a tough incline. 3, but I do 3.5 miles an hour.
Yep.
And for 30 minutes.
So I do 40 minutes, 15, 3.7.
15 what?
15 incline.
I was so proud of my 12. I thought you were going to be impressed with my 15 incline.
Yeah, I love an incline. I do 15 incline, 3.7 speed for 40 minutes
How often?
every day. But I break it up in between. Like I do my incline and then I'll do like some
For, like,
weights
10
and then I'll
minutes.
jump back on the treadmill and do my incline and then I'll do more weights or like deep core and then I'll go back on the treadmill and do my 15. Yeah.
And then food?
I eat the same breakfast every day. You'd be shocked to know. I eat 2
What is
eggs,
it?
dry toast, half a banana, and blueberries, and coffee every morning.
What kind of toast?
Just a wheat toast, just a Dave's Killer Bread.
Dave's is
Shout
good.
out sponsorship.
Yeah.
They'll never, yeah, right. Endorsement deals, yeah.
Well, but I was so afraid. I did paleo for a long time. I was so afraid of any of those kind of, grains.
Oh, you have
breads.
to have grains. I'm a
Yeah.
firm believer. You have to have just balance. And then I love sugar at the end of the day.
Like dessert.
Yes,
at
I'm
end
a
of the
big
night.
sweets person.
Chocolate.
Chocolate, Skittles, Starburst, Oreos.
Red dye, red dye, red dye.
Yeah, that's all right, whatever. I mean, we've all lived this long.
No, exactly. So one thing I've also had to work on lately is timing. And I'm okay eating earlier because I'm kind of a night owl, which
Yeah.
is also a bad disease I'm trying to recover from. But to eat earlier and have that last bit of sugar, because it's nightly, like I have to have a bite of dark chocolate, if not a bowl of ice cream. And I also think like, you gotta live. Like,
Yeah.
what's that line between that and, everyone now? I feel like since the turn of the year, have you noticed this? There's so much more on that just comes up in social media. Maybe it's just my For You, where it's like every alcohol causes cancer and it's just anti-alcohol. But like, I feel
Listen,
like it's
Jesus drank wine.
that's what I said.
I'm not.
Red wine.
Everything in moderation. All this, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't eat Oreos, don't eat this, don't eat that. Nah. They're trying to do too much with cauliflower and too much with cottage cheese. They're expecting too much out of these alternatives. Like you can, everything in moderation.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
Your structure, though, obviously guides you. And
Yeah.
it is, is there something that, like, what do you, in that area, personally, I guess, that gets you set professionally, do you really want to work on?
Oh, I would like to not be so stringent. I would like to not be so thrown off when I'm out of control. I would like to not let that bother me as much as it does.
Yeah.
Like if my routine gets thrown off, it really affects me.
Yeah.
And I wish it didn't affect me so much. I wish I could be more go with the flow. I really wish I had more of that. And I'm getting better, but I'm not a go with the flow kind of person. I have to have like my certain thing, and I'm too much like that. I wish I was less.
Blueberries in your.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's just for timing, convenience, and it works for me.
It does work.
But,
and coming off the workout, yeah.
yeah. But for me, like when my schedule gets thrown off, it impacts me more than I wish it did.
Yeah. But I do think it's here. Like that's probably how you came out of the womb.
Yeah.
You know.
And my dad's like that, and yeah.
Oh, he is.
I wish I were more spontaneous. I wish I were not as much of a planner as I am.
Does JP help you be more spontaneous? Is that something that, when he's home, I guess it's hard because he's gone so much.
We have, and that's kind of the way it is too, because I have to go see him. I'll go to Syracuse and whatever we need to be, because he's a AAA coach. So it's like my travel schedule is crazy sometimes. So I've learned to be a little bit less, because it changes. I go to New York for things and I travel. We were just in DC, but I'm the kind of person that I'm really worried about flights being delayed or canceled. Like I have a real stress of that. Like even coming back from DC, I checked that Southwest thing, like refresh. I'll go on the FlightAware and check it, because my like being stranded and not being able to get home is a big thing for me.
That makes sense.
Because I'm just so like, if I miss my routine for a certain amount of days, I really don't like it. I can't do vacation for more than 3 days. I don't enjoy it. I have to get back to my
Tomi,
routine. See,
3
these are things I
days?
need to work on. Yeah.
3 days.
3 days.
What's the last vacation you took?
I think 3 days last August.
What'd you do?
We went to the Keys for 3
Okay.
days. My husband, during the baseball season, only gets 7 days off.
Oh, wow.
AAA, they only get 7 days
Yeah,
off.
they're on
So
the
that's
road.
it. And some teams don't even offer that. So he has 7 days outside of All-Star break that he can come home. So we took 3 of the 7 to go to the Keys before he had to go back.
Wow.
But
Honeymoon?
never did that. No, I don't get time off.
What do you
Fortunately.
mean? You can take time.
It's hard. It's hard. When you have, like, as you know, like when you have your own show, like I kind of have to be there. Like if I don't do it, nobody can really do it, because I write it and I do it. So I kind of have to be the one doing it. I'm getting better on though and taking my time. So I'm getting better at that, having the me time. I'm very bad at saying no, because I feel like I have to do everything. I feel like I'm so grateful to be where I am and doing what I'm doing that I feel like if I say no to something, that's a sign of being ungrateful. So that's another thing I have to work on.
Interesting.
Like if I say, no, I'm not available for this, I'm like, oh, they're gonna stop asking. But they won't. But in my head,
Well,
it's
you've
like,
already-
oh, they think that I'm lazy. That's what I think. They'll
Yeah.
think that I'm ungrateful to be asked. So I have to get better at that.
I think that's a female thing.
It is.
That what I was saying earlier about being a pleaser and being so afraid to upset anyone.
Yeah.
It's well intended, but it takes a toll.
People will ask me, like even Travis will ask me, like, well, why didn't you just tell them no? And I said, I can't tell them no. He's like, yeah, you can. Like, no, I can't. I think I can. I probably can. But I don't. I'm so defiant in every area of my life, but I really, when it comes to work, I always want to have the reputation of outworking everybody. And so I'm always fearful that if I don't do everything and say yes to the 4:30 a.m. that it's going to be that like I think I'm too good for it or something.
Yes.
That's a female thing though. It really is a female thing.
It is.
Because the men will be like, no. But
I'm good.
Yeah.
Like play. No.
Yeah.
No.
No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that today.
But at what point, Tomi, I know you don't know that answer yet because you're working through it, but you know how successful you are and how respected you are. So it'll be interesting to see when you find it, when you're comfortable enough to say, no, I need some time, and that's okay, you know?
I got to do that.
I think you do.
That'll be my goal for this year.
Really?
Yeah.
You know we're recording this.
I know. Well, and I do too, and a part of it too is like, I've always been so independent that saying like, oh no, I'm not doing this on this day because I need to go see my husband who I haven't seen for a month. I need to be able to say that. Like, no, I haven't seen my husband for a month, so I can't do this day. You know, I always put that second.
You have to.
I always put work first.
Yes.
Like almost ahead of everything, and I need to get better at that.
Well, they know that. And then therefore, why would they not keep
I
asking
know,
you?
I know.
Like,
I've set a
you've
precedent.
made it easy.
I've said yes to everything. I know.
Yeah, that actually surprises me. Because especially, for the majority of your life, it's like, this is what I'm doing, this is what I want, I don't care what they think, boom, 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 boom. And then there's that human aspect. There's that human side of you. Because I think it comes, yes, being a woman, being a girl, but also when you have to fight and claw for so long to get there, and you're doubted, and I mean, listen, they might love us now, but tomorrow it's next man up. So I think it's a legitimate concern.
Well, you have to have a steady work ethic, and when I think about it, I'm pretty good at self-reflection, and I know the areas that I need to work on. But for me, and I think a lot of women feel this way as well, but especially doing the careers that we do in television and on camera, for me, I always have like an imposter syndrome type thing too, where it's like, I'm just Tomi Lahren from South Dakota. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not former military. I'm not former CIA. I'm not a doctor. I don't have a lot of other people that work on my network have these backgrounds of like, I've done this, that, and this. And now I'm on TV. For me, it's like, I started on TV. So for me, I feel like I need to outwork everybody because it's like, why should you get the opportunity, Tomi, who's not former military, is not a former lawyer, not a doctor, why should you get the opportunity over somebody else that has that resume? Well, the only way I'm gonna get it is if I outwork everybody else. Because if they know that like Tomi works harder than everybody else, then I can stay at their level. And that's unrealistic to think that, because I'm here where I am because people value my opinion and people value what I have to say. But for me, it's like, if I don't say yes to everything and I don't outwork everybody and I'm not like always at 100%, then they're gonna realize that like you don't have the accolades or like you don't have the resume, you know?
Yeah.
That's a big deal for me.
It also works against you to be beautiful without the resume, without those things. And I know you've heard that probably your whole life. Yes, am I wrong? About how, oh, well, look, she doesn't have this, but this is why she's on TV. Look at her.
You know, everyone I work with is so beautiful that I don't really think that, for me, for as many people say like you're beautiful, I have just as many people saying like, you could play a movie on your forehead. I know, that's probably true. Or say, every picture, you post a picture, I'm sure you see the trolls. Like, I read them and it used to really bother me when people would say something nasty, and then I would really internalize it. I'd be like, oh my God, I have a huge forehead. And then that's all I would notice is like, oh my God, you have a huge forehead. or whatever it is about myself that they would nitpick and pick apart. So for as many people, I don't really get that, like, you are where you are because you're pretty. Everyone that does what I do is pretty. I more had to stop paying attention to when people say negative things, because that would really eat me alive, the negative things.
Yeah.
And now I just laugh at it. Like, it'll bother me for a second. And my thing now in my comments that I do, when someone will say something, I posted my inauguration pictures, and someone said something like, you have like giant calves, and I'll respond like, thank you, I work very hard on them. Or someone will say something nasty, and I'll be like, thank you for noticing. You have a giant forehead, thank you for noticing. Or like, you're like, your hair is like really fried on the ends. Oh, thank you for noticing. Please drop your hair care routine in the comments. That's what I do now, because it's funny.
That's fun.
And a lot of times these people will realize what an asshole they're being.
Yes.
And they'll feel bad that they said something mean.
Yes, I constantly get, whenever I choose to respond, which is pretty rare now, I just don't, and I need to go through the comments and respond, because there's so many kind ones too. I want them to be acknowledged, but I know that it would be a full-time job.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, no, and then I'd say things I would regret. But when you do take the time, 9 times out of 10, they come back and they're like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean for it to come across that way. I think you're great, and I've always watched you since I was a little kid, and I love the New York Giants. I'm like, yeah. When you do respond, they realize you're actually human. Oh my God, you're a real person.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I do it, my goal is not to have them apologize, because I actually don't care, but maybe they're a little more sensitive to the next young woman that they choose to go after online, who isn't where I am, where you are yet, mentally, to be able to handle people talking about, I mean, I was called a giraffe for a long time because I have a long, skinny neck, and in the summertime, especially when I was doing NFL training camps, you wear tank tops, and, or like the golf shirt is what I had to wear, and then my long, skinny neck, and I mean, the things that I've been called, and then you take it in, I'm like, okay, so I think I'm gonna put my collar up so my neck You do internalize it.
Yeah, you do. Oh,
and
yeah,
you're
women
strong.
do.
We're
Women
strong,
do.
but we're still,
Yeah.
it's hard.
You really do. And I've also noticed, and I wrote about this in my book too, but you're right. Most of the comments are like, you're so hot, you're so beautiful, whatever. And I go all the way past those, and I look for the mean one. I'm like, who's going to say something mean? And I look for it.
I know.
That's so destructive that I
Why do we
look for
do
the mean
that?
one. I'll go past all the nice ones to find the mean one.
Why do we do that?
I think it's a female thing.
So we do care.
Oh, we care. But for me, like, I'll read it, it'll hurt my feelings for a second, and then you just gotta move on. You just gotta move on. But I don't care what people say about my opinions. I'm more conscious about when people talk about my appearance or my intelligence. Yeah. That'll be too, like, when they insult, because at some point, like, they push a button. If you already feel like, oh, I work with all these super intelligent, really highly respected people, and I went to UNLV in Las Vegas, I'm self-conscious about that probably. So when people tell me I'm dumb, or like, what do you know? You just have a political science degree from Vegas. I'm like, that probably does hurt my feelings for a minute.
Yeah.
But it's like, listen here. I'm where I am, and you don't need to have, it's great if you do, but you don't need to be a Harvard-educated lawyer and all this stuff. I don't have that, but I got something.
The
I'm
fact
here.
that you're there, right? That's the thing. That's the thing. So what would you tell, or what do you tell? I know you get asked questions all the time from young men and women who want to do what you're doing and have the courage to speak up. Like, what's your advice in every aspect,
My aspect for people that want to do TV, broadcasting, whatever it is you really do have to outwork everybody. And if you're a pretty girl and you want to go into broadcasting because you're a pretty girl, I'm sorry, but that will not be enough, because there are a lot of pretty girls out there. What are you going to do that makes you different? That's what I tell. And I'm sure you tell people in sports too. Like, a lot of women want to be sports broadcasters because it looks so cool to be Erin Andrews or Sage Steele or all this. But you better know your stuff, because in most cases, being pretty is not going to cut it. A lot of pretty girls.
It is so cutthroat in what you and I do. And they're pretty, and they're talented, and they're smart. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how hard you work, by the way, if you don't have the credentials to back it up to be able to look in that camera and do what you do every single day and spit facts, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a business. And they might like you as a person, but they're not going to do any favors to keep you on because you're hot. Like, it's not happening.
Because there's hot girls everywhere.
Yeah.
And there's attractive men everywhere too. The men don't have to be as attractive, which is whatever. But just for people in general, back to my original thing about standing up for yourself and having beliefs and opinions, you will cultivate a group of people who respect your opinions even if they don't agree with them.
Yes.
But you have to be honest about your opinions in order to cultivate that group. Because like you
Say
said,
that
you've
again?
lost friends. Yeah, you have to be honest about your opinions to cultivate the group of people around you
Yep.
who truly respect you as a full person.
Yeah.
When you say you've lost friends since you've done this, that's never been my experience because the people that I've cultivated around me already know where I stand.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're all conservative
Right.
or even the same conservative values that I
You've
have.
been consistent since 21. This is
Yeah.
all that they have known. So that cultivating, yeah.
I will always be me, and everyone around me will know that I'm always going to be me, and I will always respect their opinions as well. I have liberal friends. I respect their opinions, or we just don't talk about it. But I've cultivated a group of people around me that it's like I can be myself. And it's not a big group, but it's like a quality group. So that's what I would tell people is be yourself, you will cultivate your group.
Yeah.
And you will be that person for somebody else too. You will be somebody else's group and you will support them. And when people say, I want to be liked, people will like me because I'm a nice person. They will like me because they know that I have strength of character. They don't need to like me because they agree with my opinions.
Exactly. It doesn't matter.
I know a lot of people that do what I do, that I agree with 99% of the things they say, but I think they're a crap human being.
Yeah.
And I would rather be around a liberal who disagrees with everything that I agree with politically, but is a nice person. And I will never shit on those people either. And I'll tell you who they are as we're wrapping up, because we've done this for a long time, but we're having a great conversation.
Thank you.
People I will never shit on. Chelsea Handler was very nice to me.
Really?
Embraced me, gave me a hug. We did a onstage debate at Politicon in Los Angeles, and she was so kind to me. I will never shit on her for that as a person. People are going to be shocked. Joy Behar, I will not shit on her as a person because when I went and did The View, she waited for me outside of my dressing room for over an hour to say, I appreciate that you're not a blowhard and that you actually believe what you believe and you can articulate it.
Really?
She took the time to come and say that to me. So now I think Joy Behar is batshit crazy. And I disagree with every opinion and maybe some of her morals even. But she was nice to me. And so I appreciated that. And I will never just go and say like, she was this. People
She's
always
an
say,
idiot.
people
Yeah.
always say like, when you were on The View, those women are probably such bitches. I'm like, no, they were nice. Whoopi wasn't there, but the women that I was around were at least nice to me.
That matters.
It does.
Chelsea Handler, Joy Behar.
Bill Maher was very nice to me.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy. But
He is
Bill
nice.
Maher was very nice to me.
Yeah.
To some extent, Simone Sanders, her and I did a debate together. To some extent, she was nice to me, or at least respectful.
Respectful. That matters.
Respectful.
Yeah.
So I will never crap on those people just because
for
they
you.
disagree with me.
You talk about things that you disagree with, and if you think they got their facts wrong,
Yeah.
but not the human element of it, which I
Yeah.
think is huge. I actually think that's what we should be doing. Unless you know something intimate that they've done something to you specifically, how can we comment on them as human beings? That's why with Donald Trump, I always defend, and I don't know him that well. But at the end of the day, criticize his policies. Is he a Nazi? Like, okay,
Yeah.
stop.
And those people haven't met him because he's such a nice man.
And so generous and good, like good and helpful, and does things that you couldn't even keep track of all the wonderful things he's done for strangers.
Right.
But I don't think people want to know the human element.
They don't, because it's easier to villainize somebody that you don't know. Two people that I'm really disappointed in. One, Charlemagne the God. He and I wouldn't call us friends, but we were acquaintances, and we would email back and forth. He was on my show, and I was never on The Breakfast Club, but he called me Donkey of the Day a couple of times or whatever. But we'd met in New York. We walked, talked, had a good conversation with one another, and he knew I was a nice person. He knew I was a good person. He defended me one time on radio and said when black women were mad that he had me on or that he had been seen with me or something. And he said, well, don't be mad that she's doing what she's doing. Like, why don't you do it too? Like, you're mad that she has a platform and that I invited her on. Like, why don't you have your opinion and do what she does? and he got eviscerated for that. And then he walked it back and wanted nothing to do with me then.
He did?
Yep, then it was like, I'm not gonna talk to Tomi, I want anything to do with Tomi. Like, it was like all of a sudden, well, I think she's a racist. No, you didn't. You didn't think I was a racist.
He said he thought you were a racist.
He would then in public context would be like, yeah, well, she's racist or whatever. And I'm like, you know I wasn't. You're full of it. You knew I was a nice person, and you and I might have disagreed on things, but you knew I was a good human. That was disappointing. 2, Trevor Noah. Trevor Noah, I went on The Daily Show. He was very nice to me. Maybe not publicly, like he took some jabs at me on air. But afterwards, texted me, wanted to meet up, proceeded to text with me months after on my personal phone number, was nice to me, would call me nice things, call me beautiful, whatever. But then, and he has defended me a couple of times, so I give him a little bit of credit. But you know, when people were going after him for having me on or being seen with me or whatever, he tried to play it off like, oh, I didn't actually invite her to this, like my producer did for this. It's like, no, he didn't.
Why do
You
you
did.
even have to
You
say
did.
that?
You did. So just be honest. And he has defended me a couple of times, which I appreciate. When I was getting all the death threats and everything after his show, he had defended me, and I appreciated that. But anytime these people got like the public pushback, it was like they tried to distance themselves because their side was attacking them for having a conversation with me. So like that's like icky.
It's unnecessary, but what does it do? To me, it's proof of their own insecurity.
Yeah.
If they can't say, yeah, I had her on, she's a cool girl. We disagree on a lot of things, but she was nice. Like, is that hard?
No, but they are like you were. They're very dictated by what they think their base is, and they are worried to like cross them. They're worried to not fit into the box that was made for them.
Yes, and I think, but I think sometimes I'm surprised because once you've reached that level of success, you do have some power, and it is easier to. You got a contract, they're getting paid millions of dollars. It is easier to say, this is who I am and this is what I believe, and she was nice to me even though I think she's batshit crazy with her politics, right? That's when it's surprising, is when you have people who actually, you know, you're not trying to seek the approval to get your entry-level job here. You made it. That's the part that's frustrating, and I hate that you've dealt with it, but the way you have dealt with it, and that's a choice, the way you've chosen to deal with all of this is amazing. And like I said, you're 20 years younger than me, but I've learned from watching you with your strength and how you've done it.
That's very kind of you.
No, but I'm not just saying it. Like, I don't have to say that stuff anymore. I mean it, you know?
Yeah.
It's inspirational, and I hope that I know that you're always striving. I hope that every once in a while you can like pat yourself on the back and just realize that you're making a difference for so many people.
Well, I appreciate
Do you
that.
realize that, like deep down?
Well, I do. Sometimes you have to step back because when you're in it, you don't always see it. But
I hope so.
when I was at the airport in DC, like a couple of young college girls came up to me and they had said that they had read my book or that they were watching me or whatever. And like those kind of things like mean a whole lot to me. It's like, oh wow, like you're watching, you know my story, you've been following it, like that. Then I take a step back and I'm like, oh wow, that means a lot to me. Or people pinpoint things that I've said in the past and they can quote it back to me. Or I remember when you were on this show, or when you were on with Trevor Noah and I watched The Daily Show, and that means a lot to me.
That's the stuff that that you know. My biggest mistake in broadcasting was not having kept a journal all these years. It's easier now. You can pull up your phone and do a voice text, whatever. But to think back on where you began, where I began, to think about all those wonderful comments, even in our Instagram DMs, where we ignore the good and only focus on the bad. There's so much more good, you know?
There really is.
Thank you for helping so many people become educated. You mentioned that before, educated. Like, let's have the conversation, but just be educated. That's what you've done in many ways, and then done it like in a classy way. The one thing you have to promise me is the pictures of your closet.
Yes.
Goals.
Absolutely.
And I'll send you mine in like a month. Okay. After it's completely reorganized. Okay. But God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. We need to get you to
this.
Tennessee as well. We'd love to have you here.
I would love to stay. And you know why? I'm kidding.
I do.
Thank you guys. Thank you.